Hello there, I'm St-Pierre, and you're listening to Go Podcast. Today, Markus Wustenberg is coming back to talk about Gomponent. I used it in production. Hey there, before we dive into the episode, just want to remind everyone that the Go Podcast channel, in one word, is there in the Slack Gophers community. So if you are on that community, it would be nice if you can join. Also, if you can, talk about the show and share the episode, it's helping a lot. I should not have to say this, but I mean, everyone is saying it, so I don't know. If you want to support the show as well in a monetary way, you can buy my courses. There's a 50% discount on the show notes, so that helps with keeping the lights on. As you might guess, doing a podcast is not easy, and there's a lot of parts involved in there. So this is the interview with Markus. Hello, Gophers! So I'm joined by Markus Wustenberg today again. So it's his second time in the episode. Thank you, Markus, for accepting this invitation.
Thank you for having me.
Nice. So, well, let's if people wants to know more about you, they could listen the 45 episodes. So we won't go into your background or anything. So I want to jump right into Gomponent. So what's happening with your project these days?
Actually, not that much, which I think is a very good thing, because it's very mature by now. It does what it's supposed to. It has all the features that are basically necessary to build HTML on the server side in Go. Of course, things are still being added, so people have started adding attributes I've never heard of and stuff like that. So because there's a lot to it, and I didn't get everything added the first time around. But there's a community starting around all of this that are, like the simplicity of this approach as much as I do. So I think that's very cool. But all in all, it's very stable, very mature, and just doing its work silently, basically, which is how I like it.
Yeah, sounds great. I'm curious to hear about it. Do you have an example of a less known attribute that you haven't included first in there?
Oh, what was it? It was about form handling, and you can add attributes to, I think it was input elements, where you can do encoding types and do it for different forms and stuff like that. And I'd never seen that before. And it got added recently by someone on GitHub. So it's
not
nice.
The encoding type. Nothing related to uploading files. The encoding type.
No, about how you post the request, I guess, to the server from the form. So whether it's URL encoded or whether it's different.
Okay.
Than that, I think it was something like that. I don't know. I've never used it before. I've never seen it before. But someone needed it, and I kind of just double checked that it made sense to add, and then we added it. So.
Nice.
I'm trying to keep very close to the HTML spec and very much just reading MDN, basically, like everyone else, I guess.
Yeah, and MDM resources are so good. I mean, this is
good.
This is incredible. So HTML is so vast at the same time. I don't recall exactly. A couple of months ago, I started using something, and I was like, how did I not came across this thing before? I've been writing HTML for 2 decades and more.
Exactly.
This is kind of big.
Yeah, that's exactly. I've been doing web pages since I was 12 or something. So it's the same. Yeah, but again, it's just so vast, and you can do so many things with web technologies that it's just you can still learn new stuff every day. So I think that's really nice.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So I used Gomponent in my project, actually. So I was very interested to see, or at least hear your thoughts about how I did. And if I'm completely frank, I will be like brutally frank. At first, my first 3 or 4 hours with the library, I almost quit because. Maybe because I've been writing HTML for that long, it's the problem with me was I was always having unclosed parentheses and things like that, because when you say, let's say you open a div and now you might have a couple of inner div in there and things like that. I don't know why exactly, but when I was moving code around, I was having difficulties ensuring closing everything. I was missing comma at the end of the line. So I mean, the Go formatter was not helping, because I was having like syntax error and things like that. But it was not really code. So maybe it's related to my screen reader and things like that.
No, I feel you. I have that.
Oh yeah,
Still,
okay.
But after many years.
Yeah, but it was just at the beginning, and
okay.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why. I cannot explain exactly why, because it's already been. You came to the show in October, so I think I implemented that very very early November. So I mean, those are old feeling, if I can say that. But yeah, after that, it was starting to be extremely good. Maybe I was not really used to write. All the closing and the comma after that, and then I disciplined myself, and once I passed over that, I started to really really enjoy, because what I did. So let me explain. It might be strange. I might be talking a lot, but I just want.
No, it's fine.
I just want for you to hear my experience with the library.
Yes, I love that.
So I was having a fairly typical, web application, if we can say that, with the HTML templates in their own folder. I was having a directory called templates, and inside there, I was having a directory called _partials with a couple of smaller piece of HTML, or at least let's call that a component, but maybe not, because I was not having that mindset at the time. But let's say kind of reusable piece of HTML, for example.
Yeah.
And yes, I was having some packages here and there that was handling all the data manipulation with the database, and also the routes and whatnot. But all the templating stuff was I created a small library back then to help me with that. So I was extremely puzzled at first on how to just get started with Gomponent without. I could not go all in with Gomponent. That needed to be added side by side with what I had before, because I was having way way too much templates, and I wanted to. I've seen that opportunity as maybe trying to restructure a little bit my application.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really really thought about, what, I think a package could also, it could handle everything, and I also moved the rendering inside that package. Not really the rendering, but let's say the Gomponent template, if we can call them that. So I had so let's imagine I have a package called XYZ, whatever that is, but I have a views that go in there, and that thing have function, not exported function, just internal to the package, and those are rendering the Gomponent element and whatnot. And what I did is that I have this shared package, which I also called views. And that one, have my layouts. It have my everything that needs to be shared across this particular project.
Yeah.
So those things are imported into the view.go, for example, and now I'm able to reuse. For example, let's just have a typical example. An error message needs to be displayed to the user. Then I created myself a function which is in fact a component that just render a div with the notification, and now I started and so we are still in the first day, right? We are still in the first day of me trying to include Gomponent in my project, and now now I'm starting to see. Oh yes, okay. Now this is good, because now I'm starting to see all the pieces that can be shared across a project. But not only that, but maybe starting to create my own personal library of component. And now I'm seeing myself creating another project and just having everything. If I can never have to write a login page or a forget password page again, I mean, wow. So at that moment, it really clicked, and from there, I kept that structure, and I must admit that I'm pretty fond of it. So Gomponent really helped me. Yes, I would be game to say that it helped me restructure my application in something that I really enjoy today.
Well, that's very nice. That's very good to hear. So how you said you had 2 packages. How come you're spreading it across 2? What are they doing differently?
In fact, I have multiple packages. So I created a similar to what Django apps are, which we can think of a business process as its own package. So for instance, I could have an account package. I could have a payment package or something like that. So I
and they
started
have their views.
Yeah, exactly. So I just have a view in there which is a simple a simple function. And what I like, because I was also telling you that in my in the last episode that we did, it's so easy to have Gomponent return either from an HTMX call or directly a real HTTP call. I mean, there's just no difference. And that was a part when I was using the HTML template that was kind of messy, because now you need to ask yourself, well, are we in a context where we have we are in a full HTTP request, or we are just in an Ajax call from HTMX? And and with Gomponent, it's just a render which accepts an IO writer. So I mean, there's nothing. It just doesn't even have to know anything about its context, and I really like that. All my functions, maybe that's not a good practice, but I ended up with having the first parameter of all my function that renders anything with Gomponent accept a structure that have the current user, have the language, have the a couple of things that relates to the user in a sense, maybe the sessions and whatnot. Yeah. So I found it very, very helpful to have that easily as a simple Go struct.
Yeah, I do something very similar actually, which is I'm taking some terminology from React and the JavaScript ecosystem, that I have these page props. So basically properties that need to go on every page that are title, description, authentication stuff, and something that is everywhere basically. So not necessarily passing a logger around or something like that, which you would do on the back end, but something that needs to be displayed and checked in the HTML on every page. And I think it's a very good pattern actually. It served me well.
Oh yeah, I liked it a lot, because now inside my function, inside my package, I'm also receiving the same structure, because those are responsible for rendering the layout around themselves. So I also need to pass that to my shared layout function, if you will. And I keep myself always having to know, what is this user? Do they have permission to do X, Y,
exactly.
and Z?
Exactly.
So it was compared to before, where in HTML template to accomplish that, well, you need to write some func map, function inside your func map of your templates to have kind of the same thing. Otherwise, you are playing with fire. Because now you're not really sure if you're really receiving a current user, for example, and things like that. There's so much things to do. Now everything is type safe. Everything is I'm receiving this structure, and I know it's properly filled in, if I can say that.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, that's what prompted me to create components in the first place, because I was so frustrated with passing data around between components, which I don't think is, it's very easy in the standard library interface, where basically you have this pipe, I think they call it pipeline, where you pass the data around, but you can't really create new structs and then pass them to subcomponents. You sort of have to pass the whole state around, or it's just, I don't think it's very intuitive that way. And of course, like you say, you can have these functions, but you lose all type safety, and it's really hard to understand what's going on. So I really prefer this approach.
Yeah, the workaround with the HTML template to pass a subset would be to create a function in your func map and name maybe map, and now you can pass a key value pair to that thing. But yes, that you are still receiving like dynamics. You're receiving a map basically. So now you need to you need to use the index built-in function to see do I have this key in what I'm receiving and things like that. So yes, it's doable, and I did that. It works, but again, I mean, it has nothing to do with just the beauty, I would say, of building your UI and creating small function that just accept what they need to do to render themselves. That to me is where I really dig Gomponent. Is that I was enjoying for a long time. Let me be real here. I was enjoying for a long time doing UI stuff, if I can say that, HTML and things like that, because
it's fun.
I was in Go. I was not really feeling I was in a place where I could hurt myself, like in a template, for example, an HTML template.
Yeah.
And I find it's. Oh yeah, go ahead.
And it's also because the default by rendering these templates is that errors basically are silenced, or I think it is, where you have to add this special syntax in options to that it errors basically. And sometimes you'll just not notice, and your site will degrade, and you won't ever know, because it's not something that can be caught in monitoring, because nothing errors and nothing panics. It's just, oh, okay, this field isn't being shown anymore because, I don't know, we renamed it and forgot to do that in a template. So it's just the default is a foot gun, and that's kind of weird, I think.
Yeah, you really have to handle the error when you are executing the template, for sure, and do something. You're forced to do something to bubble up this error somewhere that will not be lost into a sea of other errors in your log, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
I was surprised to see. So what is the reaction so far? So you were saying that the community is starting to grow and things like that. So do you have a lot of I won't say negative comments, but let's say, because Temple is so popular, and also I find it that there's also a lot of people that just like the HTML template, which is fine. I mean, I've been using them for 10 years. So do you hear that a lot?
I don't know really. It's more of a, people like different things and look for different things, and I think Temple just appeals to some as something that kind of looks like HTML, and it can do what it's supposed to, and I think it's a great project as well. And it just appeals to a certain kind of developer that, okay, this is how we can do it in the Go world. And maybe especially if you're coming more from the front end and from JavaScript land or something. Whereas if you're mostly a backend developer who also does, for example, products or SaaS or wants to build front ends or has to build front ends for whatever reason, but doesn't want to leave the backend world basically, then I think components is a good fit. And it's not necessarily that. Well, of course, so it's preference. I think it comes down to preference. How do you enjoy writing your front-end code? And if you like doing it in HTML with handlebar templates, then go for the standard library. And some people don't like external third-party libraries for doing this, and that's fine as well. And so components appeals to those that just want to write functions, basically, and where everything looks like the Go code you're used to. And I think of it as kind of a DSL, so a domain-specific language for building UIs. So it's not HTML, but it's of course it mirrors it very much, but it's a DSL for building UIs and front ends. That's how I think about it. Whereas Temple is more HTML directly. Of course, you can do the exactly same things. You can pass state around. You can build components and all that. But in the end, it comes down to preference, and I don't see very many negative comments. Of course, there are people that absolutely hate it, and I think that's fine as well. We can certainly live with that.
There's
because it is weird. I mean, it looks weird, and you have to. After writing HTML for so many years, and I still start my tag sometimes with writing I don't know what it's called, the less than sign. Instead of going for the name and then parentheses. So I do that, I guess, basically every day because it's just so ingrained in how I write front end. But if you think of it as a DSL and you find new ways of figuring out how to use it well, and I think that's good. But in the end, I think the main goal is to get more people to realize that it's very easy to build front ends in Go itself. And then you can have your whole app basically be, the whole back end is in Go, the whole front end is in Go. It's the same code base. It makes everything much simpler. You can build your products faster. You can put something like HTMX on top and get that browser activity that you sometimes need if you need more than full page refreshes, and that you can go insanely far with that combination without having to reach for building JSON APIs over HTTP and having to build a separate, maybe JavaScript-based front-end system and having to build that simultaneously with all the context switching and complexity and all that. And I think that's the main thing. And for that, both the standard library solution, components, and something like Temple are very well aligned.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I also think that Gomponent, could be something that, let's say, someone that I've done back in for a long, long time and not really have touched much the front end. It could be even easier to go with Gomponent, in my opinion, because there's not this huge baggage of HTML that might come with them having to do a web UI. So, but again, I mean, once you pass this initial difficult moment, let's call it that way. I mean, it's so interesting. I'm liking it because, again, returning to my code, it feels like returning to normal Go code, and that to me was a major plus.
Yeah, agreed.
So what are you building at the moment with this? Are you using your library yourself?
Oh yeah, all the time. I never build front end without it, and I use it for. I'm a software consultant as well, so I use it for clients as well. Of course, if they want to, so I involve them in the process because it's still a very niche thing to do to build HTML and Go on the back end. But so far, everyone likes it. So I use it I build SaaS myself. So I use it for all my new products. It's part of my my stack. And like you, I also have this, my own personal framework basically, where I put all the common things into it, so I don't have to keep writing them over and over, and sort of building that and trying to integrate that into old products as well and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a huge value in there for sure.
Yeah, I think so. It's just a time saver in that regard.
Yeah, you were mentioning the page interaction. So myself, I've been using Alpine JS for a long time now. There's something new. I've seen something new pop up that I think combined HTMX and Alpine. The name evade me for now, but there's a newcomer like it is in JavaScript. There's always something new, but it was tempting to be frank, because it seems to be nice to have both of those combined. But I'm using them, so HMX and Alpine, and Alpine with Gomponent was just easy, because at the end of the day you still have access to the ATTR function, and now you can just add in anything to your element. So even if it's not built into the Gomponent core library, if I can say that, and to me, because I think it was available as a third party library, but just to have, I don't know, just to have that as a real function versus just writing my own thing in the ATTR, I was all happy with just writing it myself. It was like that for a lot of accessibility things, like the area. So, but the area where I was pleased to see that it was in the library for sure. So it was just very, very easy to do everything that needed to be done, even if it's, I would say, more heavier on the client side with Alpine. And it was still kind of very strange to write interaction that I know will occur on the client side, but I'm still writing Go-ish at this point. So that piece was really nice as well.
Okay. I've never worked much with Alpine. I think so far HTMX has solved all my needs. So unless I'm writing something really, I don't know, client side heavy, which doesn't really happen, then yeah. But of course these days I'm also, if I'm doing something like that, I might just go for pure JavaScript.
Really?
Get some, and
get because Alpine
like
is very lightweight, and let's just give me one scenario of, and I'm curious to hear what you're doing at the moment. So let's say you need to add a drop down to your page. HTMX won't really help you with that.
No, that's true.
So that's what Alpine is doing. So you can hook the click event with the @click attribute, and now you can just turn the value on. And now your dropdown is displayed. And if they reclick that, well, the value turns false, and now it disappears. So those kind of interaction. So it's not really meant to build heavy client application, but just another good example is, let's say you have a table, a grid of data, for example, and the user needs to remove one row. Or click an edit button, and now you can, hide the row that is the display row, and just show the edit row, for example, in place. So instead of having to go to the server, because yes, you can do that with HTMX, but it would involve an HTTP post for nothing, just to get a new row, an edit row from the server, but. Yeah, I find that using Alpine for those kind of quick interaction where the user just need to hide something or delete something, or this is very, very interesting and great, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess I think I tend to favor actually going the server route, because then it simplifies everything I do, because it's basically my mental model is that I don't do DOM updates on the client itself, mostly for basically everything, I think. So that it goes through the server request and going through components, and everything is in components. So I know if I need to change something, it's in components. It's not in my JavaScript anywhere. And I know there are downsides to this as well. Obviously, that if you're far from the server, then it's slower and it can error and all that. But mostly it doesn't, and mostly it's fast enough. And of course, you can deploy servers close to your users and all that. And I think it's worth it for me, at least. Because I don't have this overhead of figuring out, okay, where do I go to fix this? Is this a JavaScript thing? Let's say there's a bug. Is this a JavaScript thing? Is this a backend HTML thing? Do I need to fix it in both places? Do I need to sync stuff? I know everything HTML is just always on the server side, and I like to keep it that way. And I haven't had a good reason to change it. I'm not saying that won't happen in the future, of course. But yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it's understandable. But at the end, I mean, it's not really JavaScript as well. I don't want to keep insisting, but I just want to. Yeah, we're just talking, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you have a checkbox, and when you check that thing, it needs to make appear a div underneath. So you would go server side for the unclick checkbox event.
Yeah, basically.
Oh yeah! Wow. Yeah. Okay. No. So this. Yeah. We have a different way of seeing that, because it's not inside a JavaScript file. It's just HTML attribute. So there's an attribute that on your div that says x show equal whatever checkbox click or whatever the name of the variable. And on your checkbox click event or check event, you are setting that to true.
Okay, yeah.
So there's no JavaScript file.
Okay. Well, that changes it a bit, but because I think that's actually pretty cool. So it's the same way. So I've never worked with it. So it's the same as HTMX, using just attributes most of the time, and then you can in the attributes define what behavior you want for the other elements.
Yeah, exactly. It's attribute based, and you can do binding as well. So let's say you have a text box, an input box, and you need to have a spam that says, hello name, for example, whatever they are typing. So that is so on your on your label, you could bind the value of the variable name, but everything is done in declarative attributes, HTML. Attribute. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. That sounds really good.
Oh, it's pretty, but of course it cannot be overused. But for those kind of small interaction, very very simple page interaction, like I was saying, a drop down opening and close, a drawer on the left that needs to expand or not, and things like that, or it can be a lot of things, but it's pretty good at just changing a couple of attributes, and also it can do a little bit like Gomponent is doing for the conditional CSS aspect. So it can do that as well with an attribute. So it's like colon class, and now inside there you have exactly the same format as Gomponent, where you have the key, which is the CSS, the CSS. I would not the class, but the
class list.
The CSS class that needs to be turned on or off based on the true T value, and this is the same. Okay. So if you need to change CSS when the user is clicking a button, for example, I don't know why you would do that, but it's fully possible to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I tell you, Alpine.js goes really in the same mindset as Gomponent HTMX, I would say.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Can it replace HTMX?
No, it does not do any server side interaction. It's all
okay,
about,
so it's browser state, basically.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah, you have kind of a model on a diff, so on an element. So you declare an object, a JavaScript object. So let's say open brace is open colon false. So you have a variable now called is open, and now later inside that container, you can use this variable to set its value or do some interaction with your element based on that value change and whatnot. So, but it's very, very, very lightweight. It gets out of the way.
I really like that. I think it sounds. I hope I don't like it too much because then I have to do another library. Components Alpine, but I guess we'll see about that.
Yeah, but it's also very well. It's not as popular as HTMX, but I to me once I tried it, I was like, all right, that's it. I never have to write JavaScript again. For my use case, HTMX and Alpine JS and those anything. And the result is that, from the user point of view, it's almost like a spa. There's not much difference between that and a full, React application, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. But
other than the complexity, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very simple.
Yeah. That sounds really nice.
Oh yeah. I was really, really enjoying myself. Unfortunately, I was not able to fully integrate Gomponent yet. So there is a lot of still old HTML template around. So that phase is not my, it's not super comfortable. It has nothing to do with Gomponent. It's just having both ways of doing things at the same time in the same project can be a little bit distracting, let's say that, because now you still have to context switch between, oh no, this page is in the old HTML
it's
and
your
now
legacy code.
Yeah, exactly. but yes, rewriting that would still, at this moment I'm rewriting a template if I need to change something drastically important inside there.
Yeah.
So at some point,
it makes sense.
Yes,
because there's no user-facing consequence of all of this. It's pure developer thing, basically, right?
Developer taste.
I understand. So, but there aren't any roadblocks for you to do this conversion. It's more about having the time and the priorities, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly the time, because let's be real as well. It's not as straightforward as I would have liked to convert an HTML page. So I know that you have a converter somewhere on your website. It didn't really work for me. I don't know. I haven't investigated that. I should have cloned the code and see exactly what it was doing. But,
I actually don't know either because I didn't write it. So it's two online converters from community members that basically tried doing this.
Yeah, because the idea is so nice, but maybe because I have way too weird bindings or usage of the I'm using the func map a lot with my HTML template, so I don't know. Maybe there's something in my template that it's not liking. So that is mainly the reason why I'm still having those, because it still require a good effort in my opinion to properly rewrite a template.
Yeah,
because
I think that's true.
At the end of the day, I am not replicating 100% the structure of what I was having. So I still need to rethink a little bit about, what, is this HTML template still going to exist as is, and should I split something inside it that maybe it became 2 or 3 components. So there's I want to do things properly. I'm not just blindly taking my HTML and creating a function and rendering component elements. That this is
yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, and of course it's there's always the risk of doing something wrong and then suddenly you break your product, and then it's always a trade-off of, is it worth it to do this now or postpone it till later, or just leave it as is and then you live with it basically, right?
Oh yeah, Yeah, and another thing that is very rough is that now I'm basically having to duplicate a lot of things. So let's just take the nav bar for example. So I have half of my page that are HTML template, and now the other half. So when you do a change, you still need to remember. So that is something that happened to me. So I did the change in my Gomponent nav bar. But now, so sometimes you were having a new element in your navbar, and when you were switching to another page, boom, that element was not there.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that's an interesting problem to have. I wonder whether you could glue it together in sort of a hacky way that you have the navbar in components, but you render it down to a template, then that can also be rendered or something like that. Like basically, you have a build step for doing components rendering into a template. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. So instead of using the template keyword of the HTML template, for example, it could be something like Gomponent, and now boom, it's injecting itself into the
something like that maybe, because you can render it any way you want, right? So it's just an IO writer, so whether it's a response object or whether it's a file system object, it doesn't really matter.
Right. Yeah, that could be interesting, to be frank. I don't know
if that makes sense. I'm just brainstorming.
Yeah, totally. But yes, that is something that happened to me. But other than that, so I mean, yeah, I think it was a real world use case. It's nothing like my application is popular and whatnot, but it's still a real in production web application.
Definitely.
So yeah, it was overall very pleasant, and I just can't wait to just remove the HTML package from my.
You'll get there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you test any parts of that stack, of the front end stack?
Not now. No. To save time, I'm not having any tests for the UI. To be frank, I'm testing.
I got that question from someone the other day whether Components has any testing tools, and I said, well, kind of. I've got some string comparisons, but that's it basically. So there's not. But he wanted to do like firing up whatever headless browser it was, and then clicking on stuff and iterating that. And I said, I have no idea. I haven't done that for I don't know how long, like these Selenium tests or whatever they were called.
Oh yeah, real integration. So I have done a couple of tests because it's so simple to just write to a bytes buffer, for example, and just inspect. Yeah. So that's the kind of test that I've done so far. I haven't done any integration tests.
Okay. Yeah, because that obviously that would make something like converting components from the template to components easier, because you can be fairly certain that you're not screwing it up if your tests still pass. But yeah, on the other hand, you have to have the tests in the first place and keep them maintained as well and all that. So yeah, but I favor not writing tests from my front end as well. It has bitten me a couple of times where suddenly things don't work. But on the other hand, I haven't had to spend time writing these tests. So I usually spend my time writing tests on the pure backend side instead.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're saying that. So the last episode that I recorded, it's not live yet. I interviewed the author of Ghost, which is a headless browser for doing tests like that. So instead of booting Selenium or anything that is, let's face it, a little bit memory heavy and things like that. So he is creating a fully headless browser, which is using V8. So it's capable of running HTMX.
I saw that the other day actually.
Yeah,
because I needed to write some graphs on the backend, and I thought I wanted to use a JavaScript library. How do I do that? I came across it.
Yeah, totally. So pretty interesting, and for this kind of end-to-end test, because at the end of the day, it executes an HTTP handler. So whatever happens in that handler will be reflected in the response and things like that. So now you could inspect the content of the body of the response for
Yeah.
the rendering.
Oh, interesting.
And it's pretty
Looking
quick.
forward to that.
From what
Yeah.
So yeah, that could be something. Um,
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if anyone has ideas also for how to do proper UI testing for backend code like this, and let us know.
Yeah, testing is always a difficult topic.
Yeah.
When it comes to when something is not as simple as a function that accept parameter and return something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you were mentioning that there's not much going on. So basically you are considering yourself, you have done what you needed to do with the library in the major part.
Well, I'm always open to suggestions, and of course, people keep opening issues for all kinds of stuff. So sometimes it's for clarification. Sometimes I'm changing the documentation. I'm trying to update the website and stuff like that. But yeah, mostly the core functionality is stable. Also, yeah, I released version 1 last year and sort of just said, okay, this is now stable, and I'm probably not going to add a lot. One thing that people are still asking for is a map function that also gives you the index. So I might add that at some point. It's just a very, very small quality of life kind of thing. But for which there are easy workarounds. So that's always my trade-off. Do I add this and add to the API surface area and make life a bit easier for some people? Or do I not add it and then just show them the workaround that can work? Because it's basically just a generic map function, which we can do since Go got generics 3 years back. So.
Right.
Yeah, so there's nothing magic about it. But I just want the core experience of writing HTML on the backend to be nice. And because I use it myself all the time, I have a fairly good idea of what that means. And I think I've gotten it fairly right at the current state. And I hate feature creep. And I think my main responsibility as a maintainer is to not let that happen, basically. I still value people's contributions a lot, so that's definitely not it. And I'm happy to answer questions about all of this. But in the end, it's my responsibility to not let it bloat too much, so it gets confusing to use, basically.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if the core can stay very, very simple and lightweight, then maybe if someone wants to add on top of it via another library, I guess it might be the best way to do that.
Yeah, exactly, because that's very simple, right? There's nothing that's very magic about this, because the whole central node interface is just this render function. So as long as you satisfy that interface, then you can do whatever. So people can write components and share them, and write utility functions and share them and all that. But it's very much also in the Go ecosystem. There's a lot of, well, just copy a few functions and then put them into all your projects or whatever, instead of relying on another library. And I also like that. It's just, I mean, if I add another map function, it's maybe 5 lines or something like that. Which, yeah, you can easily copy that around all the time. And also these days, when people are starting to integrate large language models into their development workflows, which are auto-completing their code anyway, then it's a whole different game, because suddenly you've got this machine that writes some code for you, and maybe you don't need to rely on the libraries as much. And it gets more custom in that way, because the economics change, basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. That's a fascinating topic. Are you using any AI in your code editor?
Oh yeah, I'm really trying to shift over to exploring that a lot. So I've been working in Goland for I don't know how long, and I thought, okay, I need to change things up a bit, because it's moving so fast at the moment, and I want to be a part of that, because I think it's fascinating. Yeah. So I'm using the Z editor right now. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have this AI panel built in, and they're still figuring it out, of course, like all the other editors as well, but sort of having this easy access to a large language model and trying to use that for building my products as well.
Nice.
It's fun and challenging at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't do that myself. I tried the Copilot a long time ago. I was not really yeah, I prefer to ask a couple of questions, but I can understand that if the models, bring the context of your project with them with the kind of, the question that you are asking, or at least where you are at the moment, this is a huge value. Unfortunately, Z is only it's GPU rendered, so there's not much accessibility at this moment. Yeah, it's not rendering in a way that the screen reader can read. So there's an issue in their project. They might get there at some point, but yeah. As always.
I wonder if they are aware of that.
Well, they have a discussion on their GitHub. They are thinking, they are talking about that. But yes, again, like I was discussing with the maintainer of Fine. I mean, it's always very, very hard to not justify it, but let's just say that accessibility is very, very difficult. And I even tried to help the Fine project myself, but even me, I'm not an expert at all in how can the toolkit talk with the screen reader and things like that. So I even investigated that a little bit. But I mean, this is so it's a learning curve to be an expert in how accessibility works. Really, really down at that level. Not web page accessibility, but
I can imagine.
System level.
Yeah, especially if you're writing something from the ground up and doing your own UI libraries and all that, and adding that, I can imagine that's...
yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of weird because it's a text editor, right? So I would half expect it to be a solved problem, but then obviously it isn't because it's not working. So
no, because it's all GPU rendered. So at the end of the day, from the screen reader point of view, it's not really a text editor. It's just just
a game,
an image,
basically, right?
Yeah.
That's so weird because I mean editors are 60 years old now, and we still haven't solved that.
The funniest thing is that even Vim is not friendly at all with a screen reader. Because
really?
Oh no. Interestingly enough,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's very, very rough. So yeah, Visual Studio Code is the best thing I've seen so far.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah,
but that's probably because it's a Microsoft backed thing, and they're good at it in Windows or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah,
exactly. And they have the money, I would say, to inject into accessibility. So
yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah, that's a big factor.
Yeah.
Cool. So are you close to launching something? Do you have a SaaS that you have built that is in production? So what is the state of your side projects?
My main issue is trying to constrain myself to not build too many things at once. So I think many people can relate to that.
Yeah.
But currently I'm actually exploring a very niche thing for language models. There's this thing called evaluations, which is basically a test suite for language models. And I needed something I'm working with a client right now where we're doing these evaluations, and there are many platforms out there, both open source and some closed source ones, products, where I can do all this stuff online in a dashboard. But I kind of wanted it in GitHub and integrate it really close to the code, like the same as tests. So I'm working on something where you do these evaluations in your Go code in this case, and then still can display results in graphs and just get an overview of whether you are progressing in the right direction. So if you write an eval just like a test, it's not binary whether it's good or bad. You get a score from 0 to 1, and you can track these scores, of course. So I'm building a small service kind of thing that basically converts these scores and does some calculations, and then outputs some graphs that you can embed on GitHub. Yeah, so and it's very fun because I'm working with this client of mine and kind of just experimenting with this, and then I'm building a product to satisfy the problems that we currently have. And that's a very rewarding thing. And I know a lot of people have said that that's a good way to build products because you get immediate feedback all the time, and you're solving an actual problem. But it's actually the first time I'm trying it, so that's very nice. Yeah,
it's
very satisfying.
Very, very great. Yeah,
and hence the how do I create graphs on the back end that I can show inside an image and return from the Go backend. So that's why I stumbled upon Ghost previously.
Oh, yeah.
I ended up solving it differently, though. I'm actually branching out to a node process that then writes the SVG to standard out, and I'm catching that in the Go backend and then serving it back from my request handler, which is terribly slow, but then I have some caching and it all works out.
Oh, well, until you scale, it's all good. That's the thing with SaaS at first. It does not have to scale at all. When people are, I don't know, complexing everything at first instead of focusing on the finding paying customers for their product.
It's the classic. Oh, I use all my time building infrastructure instead of talking to people. Yeah, it's a classic. I'm guilty myself.
Oh yeah, totally. I
try not to.
Yeah, we've all done that, but at some point we need to change.
Yeah.
And put that marketing and sales ads at some point. The
tech is the easy part, right?
Yeah, totally. Oh, that's cool. So any closing thought here? Do you need something with the community? Is there anything that the listeners can do to discover your project? What's the right path?
Yeah, it's the way you find it is gomponents.com. A lot of people write Go components. That's not it, but you can probably find it that way as well. But gomponents.com. I always love hearing from people. So sometimes people just write me and say, hey, I love this project. I've built this. And I say, wow, that's cool. And I think that's also always very nice. But yeah, it's on GitHub. So there's a link on the webpage, of course. So write if you have any issues, and I'm always happy to answer questions and just talking to people. I think that's the nice aspect of having an open source project that's halfway popular, is that you get to interact with some people that actually use your project and make you think about it in new ways, like this UI testing thing, and that's just great, I think. So please do.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for writing the library. I mean, personally, I really like it, and there's 100% chance that now when I'm starting something new, it will be Gomponent from the beginning. So that
nice. Yeah, very happy to hear that. Excellent. Maybe we'll do an episode 3 when you've written your new project in that.
Yeah, totally. Or at least when I'm complete, where I completed my conversion, because so far, converting HTML is, I don't know. I would prefer to write something new instead of because it's HTML that you have already written, and now there's not much fun in just converting it to
Yeah, I feel your pain.
Yeah.
I definitely do.
But what can we do? All right, Markus, thank you so much. I mean, this is a nice project, so I really, really encourage the listeners to go check it. And yes, I know that HTML template is really nice, but yes, it does not really hurt sometimes to bring a library that really might change the way you do things. And there's nothing wrong with continuing with HTML template if it's your thing, but you can test Temple, you can test Gomponent, you can test, just make sure it's just an option at the end of the day.
Exactly. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, that's it for this week. I would really appreciate if you can talk or share about this podcast. It's always helpful. Also, another way to support this show is by purchasing my course. There's always a link in the show notes. So on that, see you next week.